name of Jesus.
Asseyez-vous.
So has anybody ever lost anything
Est-ce que vous qui perd son bagage?
that you couldn't find?
Vous bagage pas trouver.
Here we have Saul that's lost some donkeys.
Nous qui savons que perd son bourrique.
That's some pretty big things to lose.
C'est un bagage qui facile pour perdre.
It's not like keys or a wallet.
C'est pas comme un pouce ou quelque chose.
Cell phone.
Ou bien un téléphone.
Or different things that we lose around the house.
Ou bien quelque chose de perdu la caillon.
These are pretty big things to lose.
Ça sont gros bagages pour perdre.
I remember one time I was coming home from Singapore.
Nous sommes là dans son endroit que le Singapour.
And my father had parked the car in Chicago at the airport.
Papa parque une voiture en Chicago dans l'aéroport.
And if you've ever been to Chicago, it has 8 million people in the area.
Si vous jamais allé à Chicago, ça a 8 millions de gens en zone.
So the airport is very large.
L'aéroport est grand.
And they have lots of spaces to park cars. Thousands and thousands.
Plus de millions de parking des voitures.
So he had told me, he said, you go to the end of the line on the train.
Il y a le dernier coin de train.
And you come down out of the train station.
Le sortie de la station train.
And you turn left.
Tourner à gauche.
And you go to the second row.
Voilà deuxième en parking là.
And you turn left.
Vous tournez à gauche.
And the car is on the right.
Voilà voiture sur à droite.
Guess what happened when I took the train?
Écoutez ça qui fait dans le train.
And I exited the train to the left.
Pour entrer sur à gauche.
And I went down to the second row.
Mal deuxième en
and I turned to the left.
Tourner à gauche.
There was no car.
Pas de voiture là.
How could you lose a car?
Comment capable de voiture?
No car.
Voiture parti.
In Chicago in February.
C'était en mois de février.
Very cold.
C'est vraiment froid.
So I'm having to walk around this parking lot trying to find a car.
Marcher dans tout parking là, m'a essayé trouver voiture.
I could not find the car.
Et voiture pas là.
Finally, someone came, a security guard came.
Voilà, finalement, sécurité venu.
And they write down all the license plates in the parking lot.
Il a écrit toutes les numéros plaques qui ont quitté dans le parking là.
So I gave him our license plates.
M'bali numéro licence, en numéro plaque moi.
And he said, you are in the totally wrong place.
Il dit non, place qui vraiment pas là.
You have to go 2 parking lots over.
Faut aller dans deuxième, 2 parkings encore.
So he said, get in the car, I'll take you there.
Il dit mais vous devez bâtiment maintenant là.
So Saul has lost something very valuable, something very large.
Ça a eu quelque chose qui était en fait important pour lui.
He's looking for these things, but it's not even a spiritual thing.
Il t'a cherché, mais en fait, c'est pas quelque chose de spirituel.
But they go to the prophet and ask him, can you help us find?
Et le prophète a dit, est-ce qu'on va arrêter de nous trouver pour là, s'il vous plaît?
And Samuel said, I am the seer, I am the prophet, and I can help you.
Samuel dit, voilà, monsieur le prophète qui va m'aider.
So then he begins to tell him in verse 20, see Saul, you are Israel's hope.
Il dit, c'est pas Israël.
And Saul basically says, are you talking to me?
Saul dit, mais on parle avec normalement.
You're talking about me?
I'm
just here to find some donkeys. But Samuel was giving him words of prophecy and destiny.
Samuel
was giving him a promise. And Saul replied, I am from the tribe of Benjamin. And he stays the night and visits with the prophet. Later on in verse 10, Samuel anoints Saul with oil that next morning. And tells him that the Lord chooses him to be the leader of the Israelites. See, Saul was destined to be king. Israel had requested a king and the Lord was displeased. And so Saul had to know that the Lord and that the Israelites were not following what the Lord had wanted. And so he gives reason why he shouldn't be anointed. He says in 1 Samuel 10 and chapter 21, then he had the tribe of Benjamin come forward by its clans, and the clan of Matri was selected. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was selected.
Finalement, Saul était sélecté Saul.
When they looked for him,
Mais les cherchaient.
they could not find
Ils
him.
n'ont pas trouvé.
So again they inquired of the Lord,
Encore ils m'ont dit le Seigneur.
has the man come here yet?
Est-ce que l'homme n'a pas encore fini?
And the Lord replied,
L'Éternel dit,
behold,
voici,
he has hidden himself among the stuff.
il a caché envers le bagage.
That word also means, in the English, it also means baggage, or in the Hebrew.
Pour nous, dit bagage.
So it can be translated stuff or baggage.
Comme un bagage ou caché quelqu'un doit.
Saul was destined to be king, but he was hiding.
Il était destiné pour le roi, mais en fait,
He
il
was
était caché.
playing hide and seek with the Almighty.
Il a essayé de cacher devant Dieu le Seigneur.
Now back at home I have 20 nieces and nephews.
Mais les frères nous qui ont 20 neveux et nièces.
And one of the ones that loves me a lot,
Il y en a même autant.
she's 3 years old.
Il a 3 ans d'âge.
And she goes to lunch with me every Sunday.
Tous les dimanches, là, pour déjeuner avec.
But when she's doing something she's not supposed to
Et
do,
la première, il va se poser faire.
and we tell her no,
On dit non.
she closes her eyes.
Il fait manger.
She thinks we can't see her if she closes her eyes.
Quand nous bagarrons, il fait manger.
Her mind can't comprehend that we can still see her just because she can't see us.
Oh, c'est bagarre. Si vous faites manger, mais nous toujours.
Sometimes we play games with the Lord like
Parfois, nous
that.
avons caché avec
We
le
think,
Seigneur.
oh, he can't see us right
Nous
now.
avons bagarre
But the Lord always sees us.
mais mon Dieu, on dit toujours.
He knows the number of hairs on our head. His eye is on the sparrow.
Jésus soit son
He's always looking for you.
Oh, toujours perdu.
So they found Saul among the baggage.
Ils ont trouvé Saul parmi bagaille.
We say, why was he hiding?
Nous dit pourquoi le cacher?
But others in the Bible hid as well.
L'autre dans la Bible là aussi.
Adam and Eve hid in the Garden of Eden because they sinned.
Adam et Ève caché le jardin d'Éden à cause du péché.
Later on, David hid because of adversity because this same Saul is chasing him.
Même Peter David a caché parce que ça il a couru des dos.
Jonah hid and went on a boat because he had a personal prejudice against the people of Nineveh.
Jonas aussi l'a caché dès qu'il était préjugé contre le peuple Ninive.
People hide today from God for many reasons.
Nous cacher pour présenter mon Dieu.
Maybe there's someone here this morning who's been hiding from God,
Peut-être comme on a été caché pour présenter mon
who's
Dieu.
been hiding from a calling,
Cap caché pour un père.
who's been hiding for a relationship,
Cap caché pour une
with God.
relation avec Dieu.
But Saul was anointed,
Mais Saul était loin.
and they asked him, why are you hiding?
Mais on dit pour qu'ils soient cachés.
The Lord was displeased. Maybe he was self-conscious.
Peut-être il m'a dit qu'on s'était inconsciemment.
Maybe he was afraid.
Peut-être il était crainte.
Maybe he was insecure.
Peut-être il m'a dit ça même, il sentait pas de sécurité.
But here's the thing.
Voilà la chose.
God has always used imperfect people.
Bon Dieu toujours servi des choses imparfaites.
Anyone God has ever used was not perfect.
Ne pas tout pour jamais utilisé par jamais dans le monde parfait.
And I thank God that he uses imperfect people.
Content que mon Dieu nous utilise des
I
choses
stand
imparfaites.
before you this morning as an imperfect person.
Nos pères des fois comme jamais
But I've
parfait.
been covered by the blood of Jesus. I've had his name set on my life.
Quelqu'un pour vous la
I've been
vie.
filled with his spirit.
Dans l'esprit.
And that is the qualification.
Et c'est qualifié.
If you're here this morning
Sous la matin.
and you've not been baptized in Jesus'
Pour
name,
le baptême de
and
Jésus.
you've not been filled with his spirit,
Pour qu'on dans l'esprit.
it's a qualification for him using you.
C'est qualification, ça a besoin pour Jésus qualifié.
Saul gives an excuse.
Saul va des excuses.
He says, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin.
On dit, observe notre tribu de Benjamin.
If you know anything about the tribe of Benjamin,
Si jamais on est contre les tribus de Benjamin,
it had quite a reputation.
il y a quelques réputations.
See, people always like to give reason of why they can't do something.
Mon toujours pas raison pourquoi on va faire quelque chose.
They start listing the excuses.
Je commence à excuses.
Oh, my mom and dad were this.
Maman, mon papa me dit ça.
My grandparents were this.
Mon grand-père dit ça.
I don't have enough money.
Oh, pas assez d'argent.
I don't have enough time.
Pas assez de temps.
I can't make that big of a commitment.
Pas qu'à faire complètement ça.
I have someone who loves me and they don't want me to do this.
Comme mon Dieu ne dit pas de faire ça.
Lots of reasons why
Beaucoup de
people
raisons pour faire, pour pas faire.
give excuses.
Beaucoup d'excuses.
But here's the thing.
Mais voilà.
Paul says in Galatians 3:3,
Paul dit dans Galates 3:3,
neither is there Jew nor Greek,
c'est pas juif, c'est pas
there is
grec,
neither bond nor
ni
free,
libre ni esclave,
there is neither male nor female,
pas hommes et femmes,
for ye are all one in Jesus
parce que nous tous
Christ.
sommes un dans Jésus-Christ.
So, Jew nor Greek means it doesn't matter what race you are.
Ça va bien dire quiconque race ou
Bond or free, it doesn't matter whether you're poor or rich,
libre ou esclave. Ça va bien dire que soit riche ou
whether you
pauvre.
come from a good family or not.
Ça soit dans une bonne famille ou pas.
And it doesn't matter whether you're male or female.
Quiconque soit
God
garçon ou
uses
fille.
everyone,
Mon Dieu, tout le monde.
and we are all one in
Et nous
Christ
sommes
Jesus.
un en Christ
We are
Jésus.
fitly joined
Et
together.
nous tous
And you can rise as high as you want to in the kingdom of
Vous
God
allez faire
when you
royaume.
submit your life to
Nous allons continuer
Jesus.
pour continuer la vie.
No excuses,
Pas d'excuses.
no condemnation,
Pas de condamnation.
no insecurity,
Pas d'insécurité.
no victimhood,
Pas d'infutile.
but we all grow through challenges
Nous
and
tous
disadvantages.
faire des challenges de la vie.
Don't curse what God has brought you through.
Puis, comme moi, dis ça vous dire, mais là,
God brought you here today for a reason.
vous dites, mais nous là, je dis pour raison.
Saul says, I'm from the least tribe.
Saül dit, nous sommes dans la dernière
It
race.
was the smallest tribe.
C'est plus petit.
He was pointing to his family heritage.
Il t'a mentionné avec héritage famille.
Because of time, we don't have a lot to go into this morning.
Des fois, nous avons temps pour notre tout matin.
But I'll just tell you in Judges chapter 20,
Dans Juge fait,
the tribe of Benjamin had a scourge and a bad reputation because their people had raped many women.
il y a une mauvaise réputation parce qu'ils ont fait beaucoup de pas mal suffit.
And the other 11 tribes waged war against Benjamin.
Et là, 11 là, fait la guerre avec Benjamin.
And they killed almost everyone except for 600 men.
Ils ont trouvé presque tout le monde excepté 600 hommes.
They had a horrible
Ils ont
reputation.
une réputation pas bonne.
Therefore, if you think like Saul that I don't have the right pedigree or heritage,
C'est pour ça comme ça, il va gagner droit et
or
héritage.
things are embarrassing in my family,
Vous savez pour petit dans la famille.
or how can God use me?
Comment vous allez utiliser?
Let me also tell you about another king,
Bon Dieu, connaît le roi.
and his name is Jesus.
Au nom de Jésus.
You say, why do you bring him up in the same sermon or the same comparison?
Comment mener la même comparaison?
Because in John chapter 1 and verse 45,
Dans Jean 1er verset 45,
we read where Philip finds Nathanael
Philippe dit à Nathanaël,
and says to him,
il a dit,
we have found him of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write,
nous trouvons un Moïse t'a parlé à
Jesus of Nazareth.
Jésus de Nazareth.
And Nathanael said unto him,
Nathanaël dit,
can there be any good thing that come out of
est-ce qu'il y a
Nazareth?
un bon bagage qui a sorti de Nazareth?
And Philip says, come and see.
Philippe dit, ouais,
You see, Nazareth had a bad reputation.
Nazareth, tu devons mauvais
A very
réputation.
small village
C'est mon plus trop
on the
village
side of the mountain,
qui devons montagne.
and just village people.
C'est bon seulement dans son.
How can anything good come out of
Est-ce
Nazareth?
qu'il y a un bon pays ça?
It was not easy to get to.
C'est tellement facile.
It wasn't a metropolitan Mecca,
C'est pas ton,
a metropolitan area.
c'est pas ton belle place de politicien.
It wasn't fancy.
C'est pas ton place qui est jolie.
But this didn't keep Jesus from impacting a world.
Ça va arrêter Jésus pour faire ça.
It didn't keep him from saving the
Il
world.
va quitter pour sauver le
If
monde.
we're ever going to win the Caribbeans,
Souffle, si nous le gars est Caraïbes,
it's going to take all of us.
ça prend nous toutes.
And we're going to have to put excuses
Et
aside.
nous allons mettre toute excuse de côté.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
My father
Mon père,
was 15 years old
de 15 ans
in a
d'âge,
small town in Texas.
dans une ville de
His
Texas.
mother didn't serve the Lord.
Maman va la servir le
His
Seigneur.
father didn't serve the
Papa
Lord.
va la servir le Seigneur.
His 4-year-old brother had died.
Mon frère dit que quand on mourit,
He was walking home from school one day
marcher sur l'école au jour.
in the very poor part of town because they were poor.
Nous passons de pauvres dans petit village.
And as he walked by a house of a Pentecostal apostolic prayer warrior,
Et pendant un monde apostolique,
he could hear a lady begin praying for him.
il était là à prier pour lui.
She began to pray and say, Lord, save Daryl.
Il était dit, Seigneur, sauve d'elle.
My father said that the Spirit of God hit him and he dropped to his knees
Il
on the
laisse
sidewalk.
frappé, il tombe sur le côté.
At 15 years old,
À 15 ans d'âge,
they invited him to a United Pentecostal church,
il a fini dans l'église
and he was filled with the baptism of the Holy
et rempli
Ghost.
du Saint-Esprit. Il a dit au nom de Jésus.
His family had worked in the circus.
Famille de ton travail dans nos autres circus.
which in America is not a good thing. People look down on that. Once they had children, they began to work in construction. And had to follow all around the United States wherever there was construction. So he did not have a great start to life. But the people of God surrounded him. The people of God mentored him. The people of God invested in him. He remained faithful to the truth. And he got scholarship to Louisiana State University. He went to 1 year of university as a chemical engineer. The Lord then called him to preach. And he went all the way to Minnesota, Bible school, and from there preached, pastored, and now is 80 years old and a bishop. I don't know what your circumstances today. I don't know what your circumstances today, senior. But it doesn't matter whether you're male, female, rich, poor, black, white, brown. God has a plan for you this morning. God wants to do something in your life. To just make the point a little bit more, if you look at the genealogy of Jesus, in Matthew, he names 4 women. Women weren't usually named in genealogy, but Matthew names them. He names Tamar, who was an incestuous harlot. He names Rahab, who was a prostitute from Jericho. He names Ruth, who was a Moabitess, and an outsider to God's covenant people. She was a Moabitess. And he names Bathsheba, an adulterous woman. All 4 in the family tree of Jesus. He kind of came from an imperfect line. If Jesus could come from people who were imperfect, how can you and I think that we're any different? How can you and I think that we're any different? No more hiding this morning. No more making excuses for what God wants to do in you and through you. See, Jesus called us out of darkness and into His marvelous light. He washed us. He filled us. He put His stamp of approval on us. And that's enough. Hallelujah. Come out from among them and be separate. I could name to you several other people who didn't have great heritage, but for the sake of time, do you trust me? Saul was hiding among the stuff. They find him and he was hiding. They were declaring who the new king was going to be. He was hiding in the baggage. The Hebrew word is kli. And it's kind of just that generic word of stuff, baggage. And that's where they found him, just among the things. And they found him, but they ended up crowning him king. We know Saul's end, that he ended up falling on his own sword. Because I believe from the very start, he couldn't get away from the stuff. He couldn't get away from the baggage. And it followed him all through his kingship. It followed him all the way to the end. When he was going to the witches. And the witches. And he was asking their advice instead of the prophet's advice. He ends up falling on his own sword. The enemy took his head and they put it on a post. And a very shameful thing. But there was another king. And his name was David.
Non, c'était David.
See, some believe that David was born out of an adulterous affair.
En même temps, David était fait dans une famille adultère.
I don't know that to be true,
Par contre, c'est vrai.
but some theologians believe that.
Mais il y a quelques théologies quoi ça?
It was out of wedlock, possibly.
Son petit qui fait en fait qui pas fait dans le mariage.
Because later, when Samuel comes to anoint David,
Plus tard, Samuel vient de voir David.
he goes to the house of Jesse
Là, la caille Jesse.
and he asks for Jesse's sons.
Il m'a dit petit Jesse.
And he goes through all the sons.
Il passe sur toutes.
And Jesse presents them by name.
Je suis présenté par nom.
Here's this, I don't have it in front of me, but here's this son, this son,
Voilà,
this son.
ceci ou cela.
He names their name.
Il va aller nous.
And Samuel says, no, this is not it. Do you have any other
Ça
sons?
est pas là, pas bon là.
And Jesse says this,
Jesse dit comme ça.
there remaineth the youngest.
Puis il y a, il n'est pas là.
He didn't even call him by name.
Il va dire pas non.
Didn't even call his own son by his
Même
name.
pas petit, il n'y a pas de nom.
Now we know that David was on the backside of the hills praising God
Donc David était là pendant pas beaucoup de
and
temps.
killing lions and bears.
Et n'a pas soigné.
But his own father just said, this is the youngest. Wouldn't even call him by name.
Papa, ça c'est un petit jeune, non pas aucun nom.
And Samuel said, that's him.
Ça veut dire, c'est
And he
lui.
anointed him, and the Spirit of the Lord rested
Le
upon him.
souvenir Dieu de Saint-Soulis.
I don't know if that was a hurt. Maybe David was hurt because his own father wouldn't say his name.
Par contre, David a sorti le nom, mais papa
We
dit non.
don't know what all the
Nous
circumstances
pas connaissons les
are.
circonstances là.
But what we do know is that the Lord anointed
Mais
him.
ça nous connaît que mon Dieu était oui.
So later in 1 Samuel chapter 17,
Oui, mais Samuel 17,
in verse 22,
verset 22,
the Bible says, and David left his carriage
David quitte un courage.
in the hand of the keeper of the carriage
Dans main roi qui va le courage là.
and ran into the army
L'entraîneur mais
and came and asked about his brethren
il m'a dit les frères yo.
if they were well.
Et si on était bien.
So this is when David is going and they're fighting the Philistines,
Mais là quand on Philistin yo.
and he's on his way to take a meal to his brothers,
Il a bien mangé pour frère yo.
and he leaves the carriage.
Il quitte le courage.
He runs to where they are
La côté yo est
to check on them,
il m'a dit yo.
and later we know that this is where David picked up the 5 stones and killed Goliath.
Lui quand il va David pour se bien
But
tuer
before
Goliath.
that,
Avant ça,
he leaves the carriage.
il était tout le derrière.
In English, that word carriage, we also translate from the Hebrew kli.
C'est clair, translaté en hébreu ou en anglais.
So in English, kli, the Hebrew word, translates to baggage,
Ça a des bagages en français,
stuff,
des choses
and carriage.
et des bagages, nous voulons ça.
So it would be okay to say this,
C'est normal pour dire ça.
that and David left his baggage
David laisse le
in
bagage
the hand of the keeper
au
of the
couvre
baggage
des oranges qu'il a mis.
and ran.
Aussitôt arrivé,
This morning, you can run from
Mathieu
your
va
stuff.
courir de toutes choses sur yo.
Instead of hiding this morning, you
Au lieu
should
de
run
au
from
lieu
the
de
things
cacher,
that
va
have you.
courir, vite Dieu mon
You
Dieu.
should run from the things that have bound
Ou
you.
doit courir des choses qui m'enlèvent.
I don't know whether it's fear.
Par contre, si c'est la crainte,
I don't know whether it's addiction.
par contre, si c'est l'addiction,
I don't know whether it's unbelief.
par contre, si c'est
I
incroyance,
don't know whether it's condemnation.
par contre, si c'est
But
condamnation,
this morning you can run to an altar.
mais Mathieu va
You
courir
can
dans
go
le
to the blood of Jesus
par le sang de Jésus.
and let that anointing
Écoutez, oui, ça,
that Sister Sabrina sang about this morning,
ce matin,
let it begin to fall
il y a
over your
un
life.
commerce
You are anointed.
où couvrir avec oui de Dieu.
Run to God.
Courir vite Dieu mon Dieu.
Run to your promise.
Courir devant plus de promesses.
Run to your destiny.
Courir devant
His anointing?
Pour toucher pouvoir.
Because the excuses have just been too many?
Parce que excuse
The
toi.
Lord wants to give you a fresh touch this
Pour
morning.
te toucher de nouveau.
The Lord wants to pour His anointing oil over your life today. Hallelujah. Is there anyone else? Hallelujah. You can make your way. Don't have fear this morning. Don't be like Saul and be fearful. Don't be like others in the Bible who have hid. But you can make your way to a loving Savior this morning. You can make your way to a great destiny this morning. You can make your way to have some hope this morning. Hallelujah. I wonder this morning if the church would begin to pray for these that have come